Okay, so my talk will be about not just about being a bike messenger, but also my experiences bike commuting. So why I started taking a bike to wherever I go, and why I also started Pedala, and why do I do this? Okay, so next slide, please. So this is a picture of me and my brother. So before I entered the UP Mountaineers, I think he was the one who introduced me to biking. He was the one he was pretty much my idol when I was in college. So I was a freshman here in UP, and he was a psych senior. And one time, he received a bike for Christmas, and he decided to bike it all over. And because he was my idol, so I joined whatever org that he joined, I joined it. His friends became my friends, even until now. And my friends are now his friends, so he goes to the UPM parties as well, kahit hindi siya UP Mountaineer. So he was really one of the first before I became a member of the UP Mountaineers, he was the one who introduced me to biking. Okay. So anyway, he started biking around, and then I wanted to bike. And then, so one day I decided, okay, sige, fine, I'll try to bike. But I always had all these excuses not to do so. Unang-unang, init. It's so hot here, and then next, I'm gonna sweat. Where am I gonna change? All these little problems. And I knew how to ride a bike, but I didn't know what else you need to know. How is the bike supposed to fit you? How do you change gears? All these little things, okay? But I really wanted to. So one night, sobrang lasing ako nung gabi na yon. And then, I told myself, oh, sige, fine, the next day, babike ako. Kung ano mayari, babike ako the next day. And true enough, the next day, I was so hungover. But since I promised myself while drinking that I was going to bike that day, I biked from my house to UP. It's about, if you commute from my house to UP, it takes about an hour. So my first bike ride took me an hour and 30 minutes. And then, but then I loved it so much that I was so hungover. I was almost throwing up on the road, but I loved it so much. And I nearly got hit by cars how many times. And I didn't know how to use the gears. I didn't know. My bike was too big for me because it was my brother's bike, but I enjoyed it. Okay. And then a few years later, I joined the UP Mountaineers, and then I wanted to have my own bike. And after that, I also graduated from UP then. Then my work became much nearer to my house. So when I started first going to work, I was commuting, and it was a short commute. But then I realized that maybe there was a way for me to go faster. So one time when I was in the Jeep, I saw this guy. And if you notice, if you really look out from wherever you are, your Jeep, your MRT, your bus, your car, you will see that there are so many people out there on bikes who they have simple bikes. I have no idea how much a bike like this would cost, but it would not break your pocket or your budget. And he's biking in jeans. It's so hot here. He's biking in jeans. He doesn't have a helmet on, but he was just biking slowly. And I thought, if somebody can do that, I was assuming he was a construction worker. If somebody can do that every day, to bike from wherever you're coming from, and then bike to work, and then have a really tough job like construction work, and then still be able to bike home, then I should be able to do that as well. So, since my brother was my idol, I still got his bike. He got a newer bike, a nicer one, and then I started taking that to my work. So that was about 3 years ago. Next slide, please. When I first started biking to work, this is exactly my feeling. I felt that everyone was really trying to kill you, okay? Because you don't have to be on a bike to know how dangerous Manila streets are, okay? You know how crazy it is to commute, how crazy it is to drive around, wherever, okay? And this is exactly how I felt when I was biking. So it terrified me so much, but I felt that if I continued to do it, there was a way for it to be easier. And next slide. And later on, when I became more used to biking, I found that I was actually able to keep up with the buses and rude drivers. Of course, I'm generalizing. This is not really for everyone, but I was able to. In fact, earlier I used to be proud of this, but now I'm not so. But I used to have a very defiant attitude towards biking. Na parang mas mabilis ako sa'yo eh. Or kaya parang, or it gave me such a thrill that going up Katipunan flyover and I found out that I could overtake cars there. So, um, so I eventually had such a defiant attitude towards biking that I started really taking my bike everywhere. I became more confident with myself. And I knew that I was going, my friends, everyone in the UP Mountaineers, or my friends or my family, know that when I bike, when they see me, I'm gonna show up to them all sweaty. Okay, and then they go, Lei, dugit mo na naman. Lei, ano ba? Okay, but that's what I do. Okay, and over time, I've also found out that different ways of getting from one place to another, and seeing things differently. Okay, normally when I would bike to UP, it would just take me one route. But now I could probably find out 5 different ways passing through, anyway, different areas. And I found out that driving through Katipunan is actually biking through Katipunan is one of the most stressful roads ever, okay? Because there are so many vehicles on that road. There are trucks, there are jeeps, there are tricycles, there are private vehicles, and they're all coming from you at all directions. So it's really one of the craziest roads to bike on. But then when I started biking, I found out that there are other ways that you could pass without going through Katipunan. You could get to UP without stressing yourself about Katipunan. And then that was when I realized the freedom that I saw on biking, that it opened up an endless amount of possibilities for me. Okay, and okay, next. Okay, so and this is another cartoon that I found online. So this is what biking may be like. Click, honk, beep, cars, and going through that. Okay, and so if, you had to ask me like, oh, how was work? Boring, but the ride home was fantastic. Okay, so this is again, well, these are just my experiences. So whenever I'm on the bike. Okay, next. So when I became more confident with that, when I started seeing really that I honestly felt like I could do anything while on a bike. That was when I thought, hey, something clicked in my head. What if I became a bike messenger? And then I knew Candy Reyes, batch 2005 from the UP Mountaineers. She had her own Pedala, which, as Ray and Reg explained earlier, it is a bike messenger company where we offer same-day delivery service, but all of our packages are delivered via bike. So one night, I got very drunk again, and I texted Candy that night. I said, oh, hey, Candy, guess what? I want to try Pedala. And she goes, okay, sure, why not? Oh, yeah, that's great. Go ahead. Okay, we'll tell you the next day where you're going. Then, okay, fine, sure. And the day after, and I was for some reason, I've been biking for about 2 or 3 years already before I started with Pedala. Yeah, around 3 years. So I started early this year. I started Pedala early this year. Early 2011, sorry. So I was so nervous, and I didn't know why I was so nervous, because I've been biking already for 2 or 3 years, and I was already confident with it. I didn't know why I was nervous, but and true enough, maybe because I was afraid, I didn't know where I was going to go. And true enough, the first delivery that I got was from Congressional Avenue to San Juan, and I lived in Pasig. So I didn't know, first of all, I didn't know where Congressional Avenue was, okay, and then how to get there. And then the next one, I wasn't that familiar with San Juan. I knew some areas of San Juan, but I didn't know where it was. But but thankfully that was my only delivery for today. And my dispatcher, Bernice, at that time, also batch 2005 from the UP Mountaineers, she said, oh, there's no rush, no pressure, as long as you deliver it during the day. So next, so I was able to deliver it. Okay, so, and one of the tools that I found out next that is really very extremely important when doing Pedala is the City Atlas. Okay, so it helped me find my way in and from my deliveries. Okay, so I thought it's a very, very handy book where all the maps of Metro Manila are on. what's good about Padala is that the route is limited to within Metro Manila. So that includes QC, Manila, Pasay. Anyway, basta walang Paranaque, walang Caloocan, Bulacan, thankfully, or else. Thankfully. So this is one of the tools that I would normally use. And then what we have here on your left is okay lang. What you have here on your left is the package note, okay, so that you can keep track of your packages. So there's a tracking number there, also the biker is there, and then there's contact number, so you can contact Pedala if you're asking, where the hell is my package? It's not yet here, your biker's too slow. Okay, so we can use that to track your package. Just to give you a few stories next about Pedala. So this is pretty much this is pretty much my normal week, okay? So about twice a week, I would bike to Makati, and then thrice a week, I'd bike to UP, and then pretty much every day, this is what the whole Pedala route would consist of. Pasig, Mandaluyong, Makati, Manila, Quezon City, San Juan. Wala dito yung Pasay. If Dara is here, thank you for making this graphic. So, for about half a day, I would do maybe 2 deliveries during half a day. For a whole day's work, that would be about 6 deliveries, 5 or 6 deliveries. So that would, some of the difficulties really that I encountered with it is having to deal with, it wasn't really it's just really the lack of, before I was so happy when I was biking because I was like, oh, anyone can do it. But then when I started doing Pedala, it also opened up my world and it made me realize that the lack of biking infrastructure here in the Philippines. So if you go to a business area and then you ask if you can lock your bike up in that area, automatically they'll sometimes, well, hindi naman automatically, but most of the time, they will look at you and say, sino ka? Bakit ka nandito? Bakit ka nagbibike? Ba't di ka nagdadala ng kotse? And no, they'll tell you, okay, lock it up there in some random post where anyone could probably steal your bike. Okay? But on the other hand, there are people who are extremely, especially if we have regular clients, who they become extremely, they're extremely aware of the dangers. So normally, if we go to them, if they're a regular client, they would offer you water or food or drinks, and then they say, okay, ingat po kayo. And so those are the little perks of the job that we would get. Okay. So there, and then next. Yes, okay. So a few more Pedala stories that I've encountered along the way. So yes, yeah, if you're a woman on a bike, that's what will happen. Feel my muscle. Okay, so just a few stories, maybe just to, yeah, I don't know, just a few Pedala stories. So there was this one time that I was biking to a subdivision it was a residential subdivision. So I knocked on the door, I rang the doorbell, and then, pwede po kayo Miss So-and-so, nandito po yung Pedala, pipick upin ko muna po yung package. Tapos, so the helper, the one who answered the door goes, okay, sige, sandali lang po, tawagan ko na siya. And then, but she was still standing there, so she didn't leave yet. So I thought she was gonna call Miss So-and-so. Then eventually I go, yes, ano po yun? Then she goes, babae po ba kayo, lalaki? Okay, so yeah, thanks. And another instance, so these things are things that have happened. Okay, and another one, I had another delivery later on somewhere in Quezon City. And then, so it was a residential condominium, and then the security guard who answered it would go, wow naman miss, ang swerte naman ng asawa mo, ang sipag-sipag mo naman. And I go, wow. Then I go, wow, thank you. So I go, well, thank you naman. And then, sige miss, upo lang po kayo dito. Sige, bigyan ko po kayo ng Coke. Gusto ba ng Coke, ng Sprite? Sige, sure. So he offers me this ice cold Coke. He's walking to me and then, ha! And then I ask him, ay, bakit ano po yun? Miss, bakit ganyan ang legs mo? Laki-laki. And wala. That's not, well, you know. I don't know how to explain that. It's what happens. All right. Next. Okay, back, sorry, go back. And of course, it's something that really made me happy, and it still continues to make me happy, to the point really that I've become so obsessed with bikes and biking, and all of these images have been grabbed off the internet, because if I have nothing to do, that's all I look at, and I'm a bit crazy that way. But and of course there are times though that it would get so tiring and so draining, that there was this one time I had one delivery day that took me it took me 80 kilometers. That's like by going from here to Tagaytay. Okay, and a whole day that was just me delivering, and it really, all I wanted to do was just to crawl in my bed and then to sleep and to cry and just ayoko na to, I hate this life, I hate biking, etc. And which brings me to my next slide. And I found this quote that I really identified with. So I would always realize that even when I hated riding, I would hate the idea of not riding even more. So even though it was difficult, even though that there are so many things here in the Philippines that need to be fixed, that you have bike lanes, but yes, there are trucks that pass on the bike lanes. So, or they're just, I heard this from Jojo, that sometimes bike lanes are just painted lines on the road. Okay, because yeah, you have bike lanes in some areas, but there are jeeps parked there, or some people don't respect the bike lanes. So there are, again, we have these little frustrations that that is a reality here in Manila, in the Philippines, that the infrastructure is just not there yet. But I would always go back to this quote, and I'm also very, very thankful for to have such a supportive community. So from both my family doesn't understand why I do this. They think I'm crazy, but they're supportive with it. And I'm also happy with the UP Mountaineers, because I didn't know anything about bikes before, but they've taught me a lot of things about it. So how to fix a bike on the road, how to fix a flat tire, how to fit your bike, what brands to get, what you should work on, etc. Next. And so for the future, this is what I would want. Personally, I want to be able to ride the bike looking like that. And then next one, on a more serious note, next one. Yeah. So next one, really to have better biking infrastructure here in the Philippines, that the bicycle is an equal and respected partner in the traffic equation, that one day we can have bikes biking side by side together with cars, other vehicles, and without having to worry so much about the dangers. Okay, and then finally this one. I'm not an artist like Bullet, or I don't do architecture. I don't draw. I don't have any talents. But but I'd like to think that if my bike was a paintbrush, and if you brought it all over the streets of Manila, I think this would be the art that I would be creating. So think of bicycles as rideable art that can save the world. So thank you.